Hey everybody, it's Damian here from the Break It Down Show, and today's guests are Tracy McLaughlin and Joe Giuliani. Joe and Tracy are realtors who work on high-end properties. Their approaches are different, but the results are incredible. Peter Turner, along with John Leon Guerrero, are talking today with Joe and Tracy about working in a glamorous field, location, and lifestyle. Tracy runs The Agency, a nationally recognized realtor who focuses on properties in Marin. Get more info on Tracy and The Agency at theagencyre.com. Joe Giuliani works out of Newport Beach, Orange County, California. Visit his work on joegiuliani.com. You already know what to do. Go to Save the Brave, savethebrave.org, and support these fellas. We fight together PTSD. Also, if you want to support Break It Down Show, go to breakitdownshow.com and you can go to the PayPal link. And what is really important, that all the money go back straight to the show. Also, you can find our merch on breakitdownshow.com, and also you can find us on any podcast platform, and you can watch us on YouTube, stream there almost every day of the week. Okay, without further ado, I present to you Tracy McLaughlin and Joe Giuliani. Enjoy.
Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay
This
Moore.
is Greg Proops.
This is Jordan Harbinger.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This is
East.
Sebastian Younger.
This is Rick Marotta.
This is Stuart Copeland. This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
Hey, this is Skunk Baxter.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Hi, this is Tracy McLaughlin, and you are watching the Break It Down Show.
And now, The Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
Yes, you are. It's actually fun. We've got John here, and John, in John's regular life, John is a general contractor. So it's fun to have not only him, because we always love to record things, and we've done hundreds and hundreds of shows together, but it's also fun because of what John will bring. We've also got my really good friend, Joe Giuliani, who is a realtor down in Newport Beach. And when we had Tracy on earlier, actually late last year, I was actually in Georgia for my daughter's graduation from college, and Tracy joined us. We talked a little bit about the high-end realty market, and Tracy is one of the, I don't want to undersell her, but she is a top 10 realtor in the entire nation. It's probably top 5 because she just kills it. But I thought it would be fun to have this conversation on dream homes and what the market is like in where you guys are at and what it takes. I mean, it's just incredible to be able to do what you guys have, dream jobs. I mean, they make TV shows about what you all do. So thank you, everybody, for coming on the show. And Tracy, thanks for being a great guest. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I'm really honored that you asked me. Thank you.
How accurate are the TV shows? Is my first question.
I don't think there's a ton of accuracy in those TV shows. I mean, they're very entertainment driven. They're a lot of fun, but there's not a lot of authenticity in those shows because I think they're all staged to really to bring the drama to light, right? The conflict in real estate, and there is a lot of conflict in real estate. But a lot of those shows feel a bit pre-scripted, if you will.
Yeah. Well, as a contractor, all the flip shows are absolutely bananas and completely inaccurate, and you guys know that. But can we we want to talk about dream homes, and you guys are both in luxury markets. What are you seeing now at the top end of the market? And is anybody at the top end of the market scared of anything right now?
Do you mean, are people afraid that they're overspending or jumping in a bubble?
Yes, precisely what I mean.
I wrote in this book that I wrote, broken clock is only right twice a day, right? Timing markets is almost an impossible feat. I mean, we don't ever really know. I can remember back in 06, 07, we thought we were going forever. I mean, I think the difference this time is that the financial, the U.S., the economy is very good in the United States right now. I also believe the financial markets are doing incredibly well. That maybe the adverse impact from COVID is not quite as dire as some people thought. And more importantly, we have really high levels of scarcity and supply. And at the end of the day, this business is a supply and demand business. And the scarcity continues to push pricing. And I do not believe we have any kind of mortgage default at the other end of this. So you put all those things together, and I'm very optimistic about the next year. And I think it's better to jump in now than wait a year when things could possibly be that much more expensive.
Joe, what do you see down there?
It's interesting because I concur with what Tracy said. And a lot of the money that we're seeing that's coming down to Newport Beach, Corona del Mar, Newport Coast is looking at the stock market also as a whole and going, is this overinflated? And they start to go with tangible items like gold, tangible items like Bitcoin. We saw what Bitcoin has done over the last 3 years, and they want things that are tangible. So in case there is a market shift, they have a tangible asset they can sleep under, they can VRBO it. There's all sorts of things they can do. And one of the things that we're noticing down here also in the high-end market is a lot of this money is strict cash. Like they're not getting any financing whatsoever. I mean, they're just paying cash for $5 to $11 to $17 million homes. So it's interesting, just like Tracy was mentioning, back in 06 through 08, when the mortgage market crashed, that's where my foundation came from. That's where I began, was doing mortgage banking. And we all saw this. If you had a pulse, you would get a loan. And we saw people that were owning homes not having the career or the job to actually even support that home. And that's where that whole thing collapsed. Right now, where the mortgage market is right now, and interest rates are at an all-time low, people can borrow a few $1,000,000 at 3%. We're on for, I would even go as far as 18 months to 24 months, we're still going to see an incline.
It's amazing because I believe this recovery started at about January of 2013 was when I saw the recovery starting. And if you think about that, if this goes on another 2 years, that's almost a 10-year up run in residential real estate. That's unprecedented in terms of economic cycles. So it's pretty fascinating. The other thing I wanted to mention, you were talking about all cash offers. It used to be that when you were in an entry level market, let's say back in the day, it was 5 to 800,000. Now maybe it's $1 million to 1.5 where we live. It's amazing how many of those buyers are in all cash dispositions. I mean, if you think about a young married couple saving for their first house and they're having their first baby on that, how do they have $1.5 million in cash at that age? Like, I find that
I can tell you.
Interesting.
Tell us, Joe.
I could tell you what we're seeing right here. So, Tracy, the answer to that question is, what is the biggest demographics that we have right now? Baby boomers. And what are those baby boomers doing? They're starting to retire. And they're looking at their millennial kids going, uh-oh, we need to protect our asset. We need to protect you. We're going to give you this money now so you can purchase your home and be safe. So, because we don't know, with all the, as you know, in the higher end, the tax ramifications of owning real estate and how they're trying to manipulate all the new laws with what we can do as far as writing off. They're switching that money and going, here, son, here, daughter, you just got married. Let's do this. Let's get you a new house. And let's just put it into your name and let's just go. That's what we're seeing down here. Because the baby boomer generation is the largest farm that we have right now.
Very interesting. And I don't disagree with that. And I don't disagree that it's not a great place to park your money. I mean, it's it's useful enjoyment plus an investment plus a long-term hold, plus you're helping your children so that they can put their money away that they earn.
And they don't have to live with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
How much foreign investment are you seeing?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
How much foreign investment are you seeing?
Tracy, go for it.
Very little. It's interesting. I'm San Francisco Bay Area, Marin County, which is over the Golden Gate Bridge. And, I would say it's very interesting to actually look at the numbers. But foreign investment money has dropped off, I think, largely due to the restrictions from China in terms of how much money can get released at one time from that country. It used to be that the Chinese, they were buying up Vancouver, they were buying up all sorts of great markets in the Bay Area and down south. That's really fallen off in the last 2 or 3 years. So we don't see a lot of foreign investment money going into our residential markets in Marin County and in San Francisco really at all right now. I'm not sure. How is it down in the Newport area?
It's still a nice chunk of the real estate transaction. As a matter of fact, one of the offers that we have on our properties is an all cash foreign investor. As a matter of fact, it just so happened to work out that way. And we have 2 others that are interested. It's where the property is located. It's ocean view. It's, 5,500 square feet. So that was very attractive to them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
As a contractor, I'm building a lot of ADUs.
Oh, good.
And for our audience, an ADU is an accessory dwelling unit or an in-law cottage.
Yep.
So it's getting easier and easier. I'm in the East Bay area, Alamo, Danville, Walnut Creek, and you can go to the county, and if your plans are nice, you can get an ADU permitted over the counter.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. You guys are seeing the same thing down there?
Well, okay. So let me just be very forthright with you. In that whole arena of ADUs and that whole arena, we're actually putting together a proposal, a prospectus for investors. Because what a new law that's coming down, and Tracy, you may know, I don't know if you see it up there, but to lot split now through the county and through the regions out here, they went from 120 days of the approval process down to 60 days on the approval process, and they have to approve it if it fits a certain guideline. And that's why we're looking for lots right now of 12,000 and north.
That makes sense.
Yeah, the ADUs are, yes. It's
what I think is going to be very interesting, however, because I'm selling in super high net worth niche markets, is what if these people who are throwing these ADUs in their backyard, I'm going to guess at some point there's going to be some rear view mirror governance around those, right? So I'm wondering, at what point does somebody have to show evidence of renting to low income people? Could that happen? Because, a lot of people are making these decisions this is going to be an extra guest house, a pool house, whatever I need. But I'm wondering if there will be any enforcement in the future around who actually occupies those buildings.
Well,
wait, can I answer that question?
Yeah, please.
So that's a good question and a good observation. However, with those ADUs, you don't have to rent to lower income. What we're seeing is more families. Once again, we're going back to the millennials, right? And we're going back to, they're building these units, right? And they're putting them in the back, and they're making them just a 1 bedroom, 1 bath, 750 square feet. Mom and dad are now moving into that.
Yeah.
The kids are moving into the front house. And now the grandparents can take care of the kids, and that's adding value to that lot that had 1 house. Now it's got 2. So when an investor looks at it, they're going, well, wait a minute. I got 1 lot. It only cost me, now correct me if I'm wrong, approximately to build something like that, about 200 to 220 a square foot. I could build this nice 750 square foot ADU unit. And if all else fails, I can lease that out, especially around here, for $3,000, $2,000. And that's extra money to that millennial if mom and dad go or whatever the case may be.
Well, I'll chime in on that, because what I'm seeing that reinforces that point is that mom and dad are moving into that ADU, and we're making the ADUs nice and accessible from the front, and close to all the amenities, so it really is a pool house. And what's I think going to happen down the road for these folks who plan this way is that the kids can move into the front house, they can help raise the grandkids, and then when the kids move on, they can rent the big house out and make considerable income from the big house while they live in the very nice smaller house and they've downsized.
Yeah.
So I think that we are seeing a bunch of that. The other thing that I'd like to know from both of you is that as we are seeing all these alternative plans for family arrangements, are there any other trends that look pretty interesting that you're seeing down the road with the way that family arrangements work?
Yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely seeing a generational merging going on in real time. A lot of people calling, whether it's a migratory pattern of saying, we've been away from our kids and grandkids and we really miss them. We're going to buy a home in a place we had not thought about buying a home. We're following them, so to speak, or setting up, build a home so that the lower level areas can accommodate older parents that are on that one level living with a little small kitchenette. They can visit the family upstairs, the younger generation upstairs. But I'm seeing, in a firsthand way, have dealt with a lot of that since COVID started.
How about you, Jim?
Same thing. Exact same thing. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we're getting into that market space, because here in South Orange County, especially in Irvine, which is borderline Newport Beach, the highly densely populated units. And as we all know, the market has shifted when I keep separated the millennials and the baby boomers, because the millennials look at things a little bit differently as far as when the baby boomers were around, they're going, hey, let's buy a second home, let's buy a vacation home, let's invest into the mountains or into the desert or whatever it may be. But the millennials now are going, why do I want that headache? I'll take a VRBO any day of the week. Yeah. But the smart money's going, the millennials want to spend money on VRBOs. I won't buy a vacation house anymore. I'll buy in that destination spot and use it as a VRBO and accommodate the millennials.
Yeah. When I called you Jim on accident, because I'm looking at Jim Belcher's comment. He says the baby boomers are such suckers for enabling our kids. And he's speaking for boomers because he's in the generation. So, when you have millennials come in and they're buying houses on their own, not with the help of their parents, what kind of advice are you giving them? It used to be that you would guide a young family towards maybe a fixer-upper.
No.
Does that even exist anymore? Does anybody have time for fixer-upping?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, as you know, as a contractor, HGTV and flip that house and do this and do that has made everybody seem as they think that they can lay tile, they can bust out a wall and not know where the load-bearing beam is or how the electrical works. And everybody thinks that, and Tracy, you can probably attest to this too. You can walk into a house and tell when a DIYer has lived in there for a good length of time.
Yeah, I have to say it's been so interesting to watch. When I first got into the business, people used to drive around right at the beginning of the internet boom, and they would knock on doors and they wanted the trophy lots and at any expense to sort of build a monument to themselves, right? 21 years later, it is...
I love those people.
21 years later, we're experiencing something very different. I think, and I wrote about this in my book, because of all these devices, we're tethered to our laptops, our phones. We've got 7 or 8 incoming all day, right? Facebook Messenger, Instagram, Twitter, email, phone calls. If you put all that content, that incoming content, I think, and you've got 3 kids and they're all playing 2 select soccers in different counties every weekend, or they were before COVID. There's very little bandwidth for people left to say, now let me go spend the next 2 to 3 years of my life getting approvals, pulling permits, fighting with neighbors, contested, design. And my life's too short. My time is way more valuable to me now. And I just going to move into more of a B location and feel good the minute I walk in and open this device right back up and get back to people. Like I'm seeing people pay very high prices in what would have been considered not A plus locations, because they love the design. They want to enjoy the house immediately, and they're buying design and finishes right now, at least where we live.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree.
Yeah. Well, if I'm not building ADUs, I'm fixing up after people who were DIYers. So I like how that goes too.
With that, it's interesting because through 2010 through 2014, we were buying homes at trustee sales at the courthouse.
Mm-hmm.
And we were looking for the beater uppers.
Yeah.
Because of that fact that we knew that the product that people wanted was something, we would call it the shiny ball syndrome. As soon as they saw shiny and new, they would hop all over it, because those are the type of buyers that are coming into the market right now. They just don't want to do anything. And to Tracy's point, some of these were C locations, even a D location. One of my most profitable properties that we bought and sold was behind a dump. I mean, I'm talking behind a dump. Like I had to put up ficus trees so you couldn't see the machinery dumping all the stuff, and there was flies, and the disclosure that I had to write out, no lie, was like 3 pages long, because I wanted people to know there's a dump right there.
Yeah.
But product was so
not a metaphorical dump.
What's that?
Not a metaphorical dump. A dump.
Exactly. So it was just, it was one of those things, but we made it so shiny and new, and the windows were, dual pane and the whole thing, so they couldn't hear it, but you go outside. But that was that entry point that people were trying to get into. And with that entry point that they were in at $500,000 at the time, they would do anything to get into something that was brand new.
I have a question for you, because it comes up all the time. I just had a general contractor put this together for me. Price per square foot to build right now, let's call it, mid-level design, very basic to the very high end. What do you think that pendulum swing is in price per square foot right now? 500?
What do you think? Or what did your contractor say?
I mean, we're in very expensive vertical places like Belvedere Island, about $1,300 a foot, not including landscaping, permit, design fees. I think the landscaping can take you up to $2,000 a foot on a big site. I'm talking about ultra high net worth kind of development, but it is up there. I mean, you're better off just buying something for $1,600 a foot.
Yeah, it's interesting that you brought that. Did we freeze? Are we good?
I hear everybody.
Okay,
We're good. I'm good. John may be frozen. He'll come back.
That was interesting that you bring that up. Price per square foot to build, because some of the price per square foots that we're seeing here in the coastal areas are really mind blowing now. Yeah. I mean, just depending on where the home is located, if you're in Newport Coast, you can get something for anywhere between $800 and $900. You start going into Bayfront on Balboa Island, $3,700 a square foot. And if you're on Lido Island, you're almost close to, some of the stuff is like $5,000 a square foot to sell.
What does that mean? I mean, you're saying that. I know that I can't afford half a foot, but when someone's like, this is where I'm going to live. I mean, Balboa Island, Belvedere Island, these are like extremely exclusive places. So what does that mean for a house? Like, am I talking like a $5 million house, or what does that equal?
Well, all you have to do is just take the number and times it by the square footage and do the math. So if you're looking at, let's just say, 1,000 square foot home, and it's $1,000 per square foot, and it's 5,000 square feet, $5 million.
Right.
Pretty simple. And then you can go like one street back and maybe get 900 because it doesn't have the view, and it's all the perception of what the buyer is willing to pay based on what they've been looking for. So you may have someone right next door to you that have spent $4,000 a square foot because they got the prime location, the prime lot, the prime view. They see all the yachts, all the homes. Their neighbors are nice, but one block back, it may be $1,200 a square foot. That's what makes what Tracy does so interesting, and what we do so interesting, is because there's a lot of perception that goes into what people want and what they've been looking for, or what maybe they have been outbid on in the past and they don't want to lose, and they go, I want this house. That makes sense?
Tracy, when someone wants a house bad, bad. They've been in the Bay Area, right? You can bid on a house and you're already 20 bids too late. Like stuff moves fast. What's your advice to them? Like if they're coming in, they're going like Tiburon's not good enough. We want Belvedere. And I mean, how do you tee them up to succeed? Because it's easy to go out and put down an enormous offer on a house and have it just not be enough because someone else wanted it better than you did.
Yeah, there's a couple different strategies that I think are really effective. One of them is as a matter of practice as a listing agent, I'm now pre-inspecting, and I'm talking about 9 inspections on every single home that I list. It's a condition of me taking a listing because I do not want to be tied up in escrow with due diligence any longer. So I have switched the responsibility financially from buyer to seller on my listings. And the seller's like, I don't want to do that. I'm like, well, let me just tell you what it will cost you if this house gets tied up and someone dumps out of it 2 weeks later and every other buyer we had off to next week's listing. So that's a matter of practice that I'm really very, very adamant about. So on the other side of that, if I'm representing a buyer, and let's just pretend that seller only had 2 reports and we really need 9, I will oftentimes before the offer date grab my own, set of inspectors and we pre-inspect the house at the buyers. Now, this is the only risk for the buyers that they may lose the money if they don't get the house, but far better to have them do all the due diligence during the days that house is being shown. Make sure they're comfortable with the house. Go in with a 0 inspection contingency. Oftentimes we will release the deposit, although it's disputed as to whether or not brokerages really like that. But we'll do an escrow pass through of the 3% upon acceptance. And then we close it as quickly as we can. And we write beautiful letters with great family photos of the children and the dog, if there are children and dogs, along with that. And that's a pretty good little package for somebody to get a house.
If you'd like to stage with a friendly uncle, I offer that service. I'm a great friendly uncle face, great for adding to a package, Joe?
No, Tracy, I love that approach. I've been using the pre-inspections forever and a day. And it just, and Tracy, you could probably back me up and attest to this one, because what ends up happening a lot of times is when a seller says no, and the buyer comes in and does their inspection, and they'll say, oh, well, this will cost $15,000. We either want a credit or a price reduction. But had the seller had done that in the very beginning, and we had already known about that issue and got someone like the professional that's sitting in front of us right now into the house and went, I can make this all perfect for $2,500. It's super easy. So then when they do their own inspection, and they go, oh, this is a $10 fix. We're like, nope, here it is. $2,500. That's all it is.
No, I always write the kiss of death for a seller is to have their escrow canceled. You can never go back and recreate the momentum that went on the first 7-8 days of that listing with buyer engagement, pent up demand. I want it. I'm telling you, when you lose that person in contract, it's a $100,000, $200,000, $500,000 loss sometimes to people because it's just the momentum's gone. The motive, I have to have this. I'll take it away from anybody at any price. That goes away when a house comes back on as active. It's very unfortunate when it happens in our business, but it happens a lot.
Wow, that's terrific insight. That is terrific insight. We wanted to talk about dream homes. What kind of amenities are you seeing in dream homes now that you didn't see 10 years ago?
Well, I can tell you what amenities have gone away. Swivel theater chairs with cup holders and popcorn machines. It's funny, these trends that go on, right? In terms of what do people, I call them ego spaces. They're the, I don't need to raise my children in this bedroom space, but gee, I really like to do X, Y, or Z. And I think yoga Peloton rooms are really big for people with more discretionary income. I don't know about massage rooms. Sometimes in Marin County is very, so we do see a lot of massage table rooms in Marin. And then I think, the theater room has just changed so much. Everybody's sitting with their laptop in bed. The kids are all watching their Netflix on laptops. So there doesn't seem to be as much demand for that. But I also think something really interesting from a design standpoint. I'm just doing this in a house I'm building, is taking the kitchen island, right, 10 or 12 feet or however big it is, depending on the scale of the room, and no more waterfall sides, but keeping all the edges around the slab open so that you can really almost have like an 8-person sit-down dining table. I love the idea of doubling a kitchen island as a dining room table. And then if you can have a big open table several feet from that, I mean, you can sit 20 people for a dinner party at Thanksgiving, and they're all right next to each other. I just think that's a really nice trend that I'm seeing going on. It's not a room, but it's just space, the use of space.
Yeah. Joe, what are you seeing?
Oh, we're seeing some of the most elaborate designs for wine, because everybody's into wine. I mean, I was just in a house, and it was actually pretty funny. I was in a house and I went, "Wow, your wine library is so extensive." And he's like, "Yeah, I don't even drink wine, like at all." But he goes, "I know moving forward when I sell this, a wine lover is going to love this." And I'm talking like a 500 wall of high-end wine, temperature controlled, ladder inside, like you would see in some, like a Mastro's or something. It's incredible. Some of the wine designs. One of our clients had a cigar lounge with the most sophisticated ventilation system I think I've ever seen, and in his cigar lounge had to have 2,000-3,000 cigars in it because that's what he was into. But the ventilation system was incredible. And to Tracy's point, yeah, the kitchen has been huge. And we were just laughing the other day because we had a family get together and we never left the kitchen. And we said, you know what? I think we need a bigger island. So yeah, we're seeing the exact same thing here.
That kitchen space is also becoming for high-end folks, that kitchen space is becoming a place where you hire your chef for your party, and they come in and they do it up. So you almost need you need all of the high-end appliances, but you really need a functional kitchen that a chef can come in and entertain for you. Like my buddy Paul does these world-class paellas, and he's just incredible to have around. Like people like that are getting hired. Like that's an actual thing that happens all the time now.
Right. The other thing I wanted to mention was one of the homes we sold last year had a pool with a glass bottom that was opened up to the game room down below. So while the people that were down below were doing the games, they had anything from foosball to shuffleboard to air hockey to a pool table, can still feel connected through the pool with this 20-foot by 11-foot piece of glass hovering over their head and watching everybody in the pool. So that was interesting. We're seeing quite a few of those recently.
That's crazy. That is opulent for sure.
Yeah.
What about, I wanted to ask the two of you, sometimes dream homes are second homes. My home up in Big Bear, my home up in Tahoe, or wherever it's going to be with the pandemic, I know a lot of people were, buying that second home, cleaning out their retirement account to try to get out of cities and everything. Are dream homes still those mountain homes?
I think that seems to be where the lion's share of my clients are going right now. It's and they're they're more tax friendly than California. A lot of Utah buyers, a lot of Colorado buyers, Incline Village, up in the mountains in Tahoe, but on the Incline Nevada side. And that's followed closely by, Florida. So, yes, I think the migratory, listen, it feels like the planet is getting hotter, warmer, and I think a lot of people are looking to a relief with mountain, temperatures in the summer that are more forgiving than places like Florida, Texas, etc. So, yeah, really big. Sun Valley, Idaho exploded this year. I have a lot of close friends up there who said there was license plates from every state, people just driving in there and buying things on their first round of visitation. It's so interesting to watch.
What about a place like Florida? To be an agent there, you've got some real considerations. It's one thing to live there. Like when people talk about like a hurricane coming in, why aren't they evacuating? It's because they're from Florida and they know exactly what to do and all their neighbors do. So how do you guys from California, how do you effectively advise someone on like, okay, you want to do all these changes to your house, but first let's get a bug screen around your pool and all these other things that you wouldn't know about unless you were from Florida? Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like, how do you advise somebody on a place that's so dramatically different?
That's a great question. In fact, I just pitched to the media the subject of, oops, I got here. Now do I regret my decision? Because I'm watching like Elon Musk. I think he just paid $15 million on Lake Austin. And, I've been to Lake Austin. That's a fine, but there is no real hill country there. It's flat. It's so hot 6 months out of the year, and I don't know how much Elon Musk will actually be there, but look, these are climate, lifestyle, exercise, variation of experience changes that are really, really a huge 180 from living in California. I mean, if you're in Austin, Texas, you're not going to the wine country for the weekend. You're not driving to Tahoe for the weekend. You're not jumping out to the ocean. You're going to that lake or you're hunting and then fishing and then you're hunting again. I mean, there's kind of these singular experiences. So I think a lot of people are going to get there. They're going to say, I got out for the pandemic. I escaped, potentially higher taxes. And then in a year or two, they're going to turn around and say, okay, now what? We've done that. We played golf. We hit the tennis ball. Now what are we doing? I think it'll be interesting to watch, actually.
Oh, I want to say something before I kick it over to Joe, but my aunt lives in Missoula and they have a similar thing there. And they have another thing. And this goes right to exactly what you're talking about. They call them California dream homes, where they get there, they have a beautiful piece of land and then a half-built house, and they're just like, that's a California dream house in Montana. It's so great. Joe.
Yeah, you know what? When we were up in Big Bear just recently with our good friend, Mr. Scott Husing.
Save the Brave.
That's it, Save the Brave. I actually did a video based on lifestyle and elements while we were up there, based on the conversation that I had with a retired law enforcement officer that had just moved up there 3 years prior. He was saying, I didn't realize all the maintenance that I had to do on my house when I purchased up here with all the seasons and all the wood that we had. And I felt compelled to do a video just about that, about this same topic, that if someone's looking to purchase in a weather elemented environment like Park City, Utah, or Colorado, or it could be the desert, or even right here in Newport Beach, they have to take into consideration the elements that will affect not only them, but their investment. Like here at the beach, all the salt water, people don't realize it eats away at everything. And the maintenance on it is incredible. Now you step, just a few, I would say, a quarter of a mile inland, you don't have any of those effects. You can still have dramatic views. You can still have all sorts of stuff, but you don't have the dramatic effects of that salt just eating away at everything that you own. And then if you're up in the mountains with the snow, I mean, that wood's got to be specially treated year in, year out. And the funny story that the guy told us was, he goes, I didn't realize that when they snow plowed the road, they would block my driveway every single time. And I didn't take into consideration, I either got to get a snowblower or I have to get someone out here and spend $300, $400, $500 to have my driveway cleared every time the guy comes by. Like, those are little extra added costs that a lot of people don't take into consideration. And being from, Southern California, I don't know about that. All I could say is you need to really find out like what it really takes to own a home in that environment.
I was with Candy Swanson yesterday. She is a longtime realtor in my hometown, Benicia, and she mentioned, people often sell on schools, great schools here, but at some point you want to know other things like, hey, how far is the nearest hospital? Depending on a medical condition, if you plan to grow old in this place, there are other considerations beyond just the school part of it. In a dream home, what are some of the other things that are out there that people don't realize in terms of community things that are important. I mean, it's one thing, I'm spending $10 million, it's the perfect house, it's my dream home. However, you also have to have X. What are those things? And I'll start with you, Tracy.
So outside of the dream home, what else do people need in terms of their environment or it's interesting. I see a pendulum swing. Now, maybe with COVID, people are wanting more square footage, but right up to COVID, what the pendulum I saw was people really hyper-focused on a big rectangular open great room with direct access on grade to something recreational outside. Take the chips and the guacamole and walk straight out to the pool and have everything out there all on one level, the seamless indoor-outdoor living. So the size of the home became far less important in my eyes to people than how the home lived. And even uber wealthy people that I deal with, they're not looking for, a stamp of their wealth on square footage anymore. They're looking for something chic and cool and that's new and great for entertaining. As far as, the external factors, I still think that people, unless they're in a second home, really like the idea of close proximity to things, that getting in and out of cars with, car seats. Now kids are in car seats, so they're like, 6 or 8 or, car seats, strollers, just the ease of maneuvering around to a town, walking around a farmer's market, not worrying about where they're going to park there. So I do believe that proximity to community is still important to people, unless you're in a recreational environment, like near the ocean or up in the mountains. So,
what we're seeing down here in the beach communities is, like Tracy was saying, simplicity. They want simplicity now. And one of the added benefits of the beach communities, where you can see everywhere, are golf carts. They want a place to park their golf cart, because now they're not getting in their cars anymore. They're either walking or they're taking a golf cart. Because down here, parking is a premium. And that's one of those other things that when you're looking at a beach community, they're looking for, hey, can I get a 4-car garage, which is hard to come by down here, especially in Corona Del Mar, because I need my cars and I need a golf cart. Like I need some place for my golf cart to go, because once I park here, I can't, it's hard to have even guests to come over because of the congestion down here. So I would say, to Tracy's point, simplicity. It's not showing the wealth anymore. They already know they've made it. So it's more of a simplicity and the logistics of how can I get to my shopping and dinner and coffee and walk or take a golf cart? Because sitting, as we're all doing right now, is the new smoking, because everybody's sitting so much. So they're like, I got to get up and I got to get moving.
I also believe that DUI, the enforcement of DUI laws, has really changed people's consideration about how far restaurants are, walkability. I mean, those laws are very punitive, and people worry about the second glass of wine at a dinner. So walkable, people like to go out and dine and have drinks with frequency. I think that's another thing that's going on in the background.
We haven't really talked about the impact of COVID on housing trends. Do you think that there will be long-term impacts?
I'm so fascinated with this subject. In a year, will we all forget about what happened and go back to our normal lives on all levels, not just housing? I do think that the idea of a bit of this extended family living might stick around just because people like it. Because think about how much more house you can buy if you're merging two portfolios to buy it, right? The kids and the parents are going in half and half, and it's a family asset anyway. I think that might continue into the future. I also think some of the repositioning of just how we work from home. I mean, I really, this subject of, is this work from home thing going to continue? I think a lot of the culture in companies is going to be lost significantly if people don't go back to their offices. I just don't know how you exchange ideas and create content like we have in the past by sitting on a Zoom camera in a singular way. So I do believe that, having people back at work, they're still going to need a great workspace that's quiet, and maybe those spaces that were developed this year will still be very relevant to how they live going forward. But I'm hoping some of the migration goes back to the cities. I mean, I hope that for all of us.
Yeah.
Did you want me to answer on? Did you want me to
Yes,
say something about
please.
this? So, it's interesting. With that said, because once again, I keep going back to the millennials. What a lot of the big corporate companies are doing is keeping their employees at home. So now they're looking for, does it have good internet? Does it have good office space? And now more than ever, people are, I think the trend's going to be a little bit to stay put, because that's what we're seeing in our inventory, because a lot of people have refinanced. So COVID, that's what the effect is interest rates are at an all-time low at 2.5% for conventional money, and jumbo is somewhere in the threes. So people are hunkering down a little bit more. So inventory is low, but it's still keeping that momentum and the trajectory of going forward of real estate prices.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious if we're trying to sort out, and we don't know for sure whether people are going back to the office, and we're talking about dream homes. At some point, large scale buildings are going to become some kind of dream home type situation where you can just buy the entire 7-floor complex that some company just paid cash for, and they're willing to get rid of it because it's now a liability they can't use. Or you want to buy an entire floor in a place in downtown LA that can't be filled for a fraction of the. Are we going to see high-end real estate move into the city in these high rises that can't put enough offices in there?
Well, it's different. It's different here. I mean, like I said, we're seeing a lot of highly densely populated areas turning into these massive condominium projects. So we're going up, 10, 12 floors now, where the average, you go back about 15 years, we were lucky to get 2-story high condos. Now we got 11-story, and the Irvine company here has just built a massive rental aspect because of the need of housing. So as far as the mega mansions that we're seeing, I mean, as Tracy knows, those are very few and far between. And a lot of that stuff is done completely off market, because a lot of those high profile clients don't even want anybody to know that their home is even on the market, or they're even interested in selling. And a lot of times those deals are done on what we call, on the golf course. Like it'll be just one person talking to another person. Hey, I was thinking about moving. He's going, oh, I got a guy was thinking about coming in. He's like, hey, why don't I just put the two together? Like that happens also. That happens quite a bit.
Wow. Do you think that municipalities have any motivation to? Because one of the challenges that you're facing, I always thought it'd be great if companies are giving up these large assets because they become liabilities, to turn them into, from commercial to residential space. But then you need the municipality to move on that. And I don't know that their motivation is there. What do you think, either of you?
Well, I think it all comes down to also construction, because when as you know, John, this is your field, so I'm not an expert in this whatsoever. But when you take a commercial building that was built a certain way to be a commercial office, and then you want to try to turn that into maybe a flat or a residential, well, then as you know, the structure of that has to be completely changed because of the zoning laws. And then they got to take, because we've seen that product happen before, where someone's taken an apartment building and then wanted to convert it into a condominium project, but the building was built in 1980, and they're trying to build something in 2021, and they're like, all right, insulation's got to change, flooring's got to change, structure's got to change. I mean, fire codes have got to change, electricals. I mean, everything's got to change. So I think that's a big undertaking for a lot of these commercial projects. And I think they're going to be looking, I think, down the line more towards an in-suite, smaller, like off-site offices for people that don't want to work at home. Like, get a 12 by 12 office for $300. Well, when you start doing that and multiplying it by this commercial space, that landlord's getting a big chunk of jack.
Yeah. What do you think, Tracy? Marin County is a lot different. I mean, there aren't as many spaces like that.
No, I mean, it's really kind of a low rise, very quiet kind of suburban lifestyle. I actually just bought a place in San Francisco. I did a contrarian move. There was not one car driving in there to buy something. And I figured I'd buy it sort of what I thought might be the bottom at one of these kind of, New York penthousey doorman kind of buildings. I still think there's really good opportunity, especially in a place like San Francisco that's so small. I mean, we don't have the vertical rise of New York with endless amounts of airspace to develop in. So San Francisco is limited. It's a low rise city. And I think there's just a limited amount of supply. So I decided to go ahead and buy one of those units in the middle of all this because I thought it would be a good investment. But Marin County doesn't really, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of that kind of housing. So
I think you could go to Mark Benioff right now and make him an offer on his building downtown in San Francisco and say, you're not going to fill this thing. Why don't you sell it to me, for 30 cents on the dollar? It's going to fall down anyhow, and just take that thing over and start renting it out. And,
it's amazing how that building has changed the skyline from everywhere. You can see it from everywhere in Marin County, and it really has changed San Francisco's skyline. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
For the better or for the worse?
That's hard because I know that family. I would say while people might not care for the architecture of it, I think it's kind of nice to have a new big tall building in San Francisco.
People complain about the Transamerica building too.
Developed in San Francisco. So if anybody, from a development standpoint, I like seeing ingenuity and people putting new stamps on our city. I think it's nice, actually.
Yeah, I agree. People didn't like Transamerica building, and that skyline was empty. For being a big city, there used to not be much around at all. It was very small. So it's cool to see that development. It's good.
Yeah.
It was only a skyline because it went uphill.
That's true. Hey, let's plug some of your guys' stuff because you're all doing such fascinating things. And I want people to be able to enjoy what you do. I follow Joe a lot on Facebook. But Joe, where do you want people to go, especially if they're in the market for a home in Orange County? But where do you want them to go to consume what you do best? Sorry, second best. I don't want to undermine your other abilities.
You know what? I believe Instagram and Facebook shows my personality of what I do and how I do it. And I think that will give people more of an insight of who I am and why I do what I do, like for Save the Brave, Patriotic Service Dog Foundation, the Resiliency Project, Children's Brain Tumor. I mean, that's really what we're made of.
It's important. Let's slow down right here real quick and talk about that. What does a realtor owe its community in terms of, okay, you're going to be an asset for property and everything, but that stuff you're talking about, all this service?
Everything. I think as a real estate professional, we owe our community everything because of the trust that they put in us with their most valuable asset. And that's why I like people to see what I'm doing day in, day out to make a difference, not just on the customary, Christmas giveaway and the Thanksgiving giveaway. Like, my wife and I and our passion project, as you know, PLB Coffee, which we give all the profits back to nonprofits. I mean, we put in over 400 hours on average every single year to our community and community service.
That's a lot.
That should be a given. It's a lot. It is a lot. But I think that we owe that to the community, and we owe that to make a difference with what we're allowed to do in selling these high-end homes is giving back. Because at the end of the day, we can't take it with us. You know that.
I'm going to tell a story on Joe's behalf because this is how Joe did it when he got going. He was getting into the real estate market, and you know how it often is. The family has to all do different things as they move. So mom and babies are coming out to move into the new house while dad is taking care of something else. And mom is at her wit's end because she's moving, and moving is one of the most stressful things you can do in your life. And she's got this crib and she's got to put it together. And Joe is there in his suit and says, don't worry about this crib. I'll put this thing together for you. He had already sold the house. It didn't matter anymore, but that's the kind of guy Joe is. He'll get on his knees in his suit and help you out to make sure that you succeed. And I love that about this guy. And I'm not even going to let him talk anymore after that, because that's what you need to know about Joe. If you want someone like that on your side, you need to go check out joejuliani.com. All right, hang on. Let me bring Tracy over here. Tracy.
On, Joe.
Tracy, what is your role in the community, and plug what you do, because what you do is also incredible. I can't believe you're so successful. Congratulations for everything that you do.
Thank you. That's so nice of you to say that. Well, I selected a charity that I thought was near and dear to me, which is shelters for abused women and children in Marin County. You know, none of them, the locations are unknown. Nobody knows where these safe houses are, but it's called the Center for Domestic Peace. So a percentage of every single one of my commission goes directly to that. And it's, ties in a little bit with what I do for a living, because they're houses. So from a philanthropic standpoint, that's what I'm doing. And then, I do a lot of kind of pro bono, just helping people. I mean, I'm at a point in my career where, I'm not selling, Tracy, but we don't know what to do with our house. I've seen people go in circles for 5 years with a bathroom unfinished because they just couldn't take the next step forward. So I try to share my knowledge with, design, construction, development, where the ROI is for capital improvements. And then, of course, mentoring people in their career. I spend a lot of my time doing that. So that's how I participate in the community mostly. And then I've got other interests, outside of work, with a few hours remaining every week. So.
Yeah, you're busy. You're always doing something. Your social media is always filled with you on the go somewhere doing something incredible.
Yeah. And the book I wrote, Real Estate Rescue, I mean, that book really synthesizes every single thing people do wrong in the purchase and sale of homes. Like if people can take 3 hours and read that, they will think completely differently about how to approach the sale or purchase of a home. It won't be about their emotive connectedness or overpricing or valuing something that isn't there. It'll be about making the most amount of money the house can make by doing a couple quick things and being realistic about what it's worth.
And the link for that book is going by in the thread. And if you don't get that, look in the show notes, either on YouTube, hopefully you're there, or look on the show notes wherever you listen to the podcast. And in general, just to plug the show, if you go on YouTube and you click the subscribe button and the reminder, you'll always know when we go live. And that's a great way to support us. Or you can always go to our PayPal link on breakitdownshow.com and kick a few bucks in each month. That is an enormous benefit. I'm going to let John close us out by promoting the incredible stuff he does, because he takes your dreams and makes them better.
Yeah. So my company is fairly new, Focal Point Builders, and we just partnered with a company called CivTech Smart Construction that has a whole different approach to construction projects. So we're getting a lot of new builds because of that. And we're enjoying a lot of prosperity in the East Bay area, Danville, Walnut Creek, Alamo, around there. So that's a lot of fun. But you know what? Because I'm around real estate professionals quite a bit, some of them are fun and some of them are less fun. And you two are both a tremendous amount of fun. So I really appreciate the conversation we had today, and I look forward to following you both in conversations in the future.